In the blink of an eye, a calm, 1,300-acre lake in Louisiana transforms into a monstrous void, a swirling, ravenous chasm that devours everything in its path. On November 18, 1980, Lake Peigneur went from a tranquil body of water to a scene straight out of a nightmare. I'm NJ from Freak Files. I'm taking you right into the heart of this unbelievable disaster, so buckle up and prepare for a wild ride. I want you to imagine standing at the edge of that lake, watching the water shimmer under a clear sky, completely unaware that nature and human error were about to collide in a way that defies logic. At that very moment, a drilling operation intended to probe deep into the earth for oil and gas set off a deadly chain reaction. No warnings, no gentle preludes, just an instant shift from calm to chaos. Let's dive straight into the story. This isn't some isolated accident. It's a culmination of decades of ambition, oversight, and a crash course in the raw power of nature. In the late 1800s, an actor named Joseph Jefferson bought an island in Louisiana with dreams not of stardom, but of tapping into the Earth's hidden resources. Unbeknownst to him, beneath that island lay vast salt domes, ancient, towering reserves of rock salt that would fuel a booming mining industry for generations. By the early 1900s, the Jefferson Island salt mine was in full swing. Miners used techniques like the pillar and chamber method, a grid-like excavation that left supporting pillars in place to extract salt from the depths. This underground labyrinth was as dangerous as it was profitable, setting the stage for what would eventually become an engineering horror story. Now fast forward to the 1980s, a time when the race for oil and gas was at its peak, and companies were pushing the boundaries of what was technologically possible. Texaco, a giant in the energy sector, secured a drilling license that covered the entire expanse of Lake Peigneur. They planned 2 exploratory wells, one on solid ground and another right in the middle of the lake, known as Well P20. Imagine a drilling rig not originally built for such a treacherous environment, modified and forced to work on a platform precariously balanced on the lake's surface. The site was meticulously chosen, just 2,100 feet from the mine's main shaft, yet that proximity would soon prove fatal. At 6 p.m. on November 18, 1980, the drilling operation began with unwavering confidence. For the first 10 hours, everything appeared routine. The drill bit advanced steadily into the earth, slicing through layers as if nothing could go wrong. But let me ask you this. Have you ever felt that creeping sense that something is just not right, even when everything seems normal? Around 500 feet down, subtle anomalies began to appear. The instruments showed the drill was almost perfectly vertical, a mere fraction off from perfection. Nothing to worry about, right? Wrong. As the drill reached 900 feet, equipment malfunctions started to mount. One of the mud pumps burnt out its clutch, and the crew scrambled to make adjustments. I want you to picture the tension on that rig as every second ticked by. Then came the moment that changed everything. At 1,248 feet, the drill bit suddenly got stuck. Imagine being on that rig and hearing the command rotate or lift over and over, only to have the drill remain immovable. Desperation set in. The crew decided to pump in thicker drilling mud, a substance that not only lubricates the drill but also helps remove the rock cuttings. But as the mud flowed into the hole, something inexplicable happened. The load indicator, which had been steady at 78,000 pounds, started to climb. First it jumped to 240,000 pounds, then it dipped momentarily, only to surge again until it reached a mind-boggling 400,000 pounds. I want you to feel your pulse quicken as you picture that dial spinning out of control, a harbinger of the impending disaster. In that heart-stopping moment, the rig began to tilt. I'm speaking directly to you now. Every second on that rig counted, and the foreman made the split-second decision to evacuate everyone. There was no time for second-guessing. Workers scrambled off the unstable platform while the rig's base started to collapse, and then the unthinkable happened. The rig overturned and sank into the water, breaching the underground salt mine below. Now, brace yourself for the next shock. That sinking rig wasn't just a machine failing, it was the spark that ignited a catastrophic chain reaction. As the rig disappeared beneath the surface, water from Lake Peigneur began surging into the mine below. In a scene that defies all rational explanation, a quarter-mile-wide whirlpool formed right over the lake. I want you to envision this: tugboats, barges, and even Texaco oil rigs being sucked into a spiraling vortex, all drawn toward a gaping, hungry void. The once placid lake was now a maelstrom, its water disappearing as if the earth itself was swallowing it whole. While the chaos reigned above, another drama was unfolding deep underground. In the Crystal Salt Mine, 48 workers had just begun their day on the 1,300-foot level. Picture the hum of machinery and the rhythmic clatter of footsteps in the dimly lit tunnels. Then, out of nowhere, a torrent of water, a 2-foot-high rush burst into the corridors. One miner, Junius Gaddison, spotted the rushing water and immediately raised the alarm. I want you to ask yourself, how would you feel in that moment of sheer terror, knowing that the ground beneath you is suddenly betraying you? The evacuation was chaotic but remarkably efficient. On the 1,500-foot level, another worker, Wilfred Johnson, narrowly escaped the rising water. By 9 a.m., every single miner was out. Despite the sheer pandemonium, not a single life was lost, a miracle amidst the disaster. Now let's pause and dive a little deeper into the historical context. The salt mining operations in this region weren't just an economic venture, they were a way of life. For decades, the local community had relied on the mine not only for employment, but as a backbone of the regional economy. Families lived and breathed the mining culture, where every shaft, every tunnel, carried stories of both hardship and triumph. The mine itself was a labyrinth of passageways that, over time, showed signs of wear. Subsidence, a slow sinking of the earth, had been a persistent issue for over a decade before that fateful day. Engineers had warned that the structural integrity of the mine was compromised, yet the operations continued, driven by the insatiable demand for salt and the promise of profit. Now, let's get a bit technical for those of you who love to understand the mechanics behind these disasters. Drilling mud isn't just a simple fluid. It's a carefully engineered mixture designed to balance the pressure in the well and carry the rock cuttings away from the drill bit. In this case, when the crew increased the mud's density, it inadvertently added to the pressure against the walls of the borehole. At a critical moment, this pressure interacted with the already unstable salt dome. Imagine, if you will, the borehole as a channel in a dam. One miscalculation, and the whole structure gives way. That's precisely what happened here. A fatal miscalculation that stemmed from a mix-up in mapping systems. Texaco relied on charts that used the transverse Mercator projection, but they mistakenly interpreted them as universal transverse Mercator coordinates. This error placed the drill right into the unstable heart of the salt dome. Ask yourself, how many times have you trusted technology without questioning its limitations? I'm breaking the fourth wall again because I want you to think about the emotional impact of all this. Imagine the fear and disbelief on the faces of the drilling crew as their routine operation morphed into a desperate scramble for survival. Picture the miners deep underground, suddenly thrust into chaos by a torrent of water invading their familiar, albeit dangerous, workplace. These were not just technical errors, they were human lives hanging in the balance. The emotional weight of the disaster isn't just in the loss of property or the alteration of a landscape. It's in the collective shock that rippled through an entire community, a community that had built its identity around the mine. I also want you to consider the broader implications of this disaster. It wasn't just a one-off accident. It served as a stark reminder of how human ambition can sometimes overreach. The Lake Peigneur disaster forced companies and regulators to rethink safety protocols, mapping standards, and the fundamental assumptions behind drilling in geologically unstable areas. Even today, the lessons learned from that day inform modern drilling practices and environmental safety measures. Ask yourself, in our quest for progress, are we too confident that our systems can manage the unpredictable forces of nature? As the breach eventually sealed itself and water pressure equalized, another twist unfolded. Seawater from the Gulf of Mexico, which had once been held at bay, began to backfill the lake. This wasn't just a case of water flowing back into an empty basin. It transformed the very character of Lake Peigneur. The influx of salt water altered the lake's salinity, permanently changing its ecosystem. This dramatic transformation stands as a living testament to that fateful day, a constant reminder of nature's unpredictable power. Now let's return to the human side of this story. In the days and weeks after the disaster, local residents were forced to come to terms with an altered reality. Entire communities were disrupted. Some people lost their homes, others lost the sense of security that comes from living near a familiar landmark. I want you to feel the weight of that loss, the way a community's identity can be shattered in an instant. Survivors later recalled the surreal mix of relief and lingering terror, the haunting memory of a lake that once was, and the uncertainty of what the future held. These emotional scars, though not visible on maps or in financial reports, are a crucial part of the legacy of Lake Peigneur. For those of you who crave interactive moments, here's a question. What would you do if you were on that drilling rig or in that mine when everything started to unravel? Would you have the presence of mind to evacuate immediately, or would the shock keep you frozen in place? These are the kinds of questions that make this story not just a historical event, but a deeply personal exploration of human reaction under extreme pressure. In the aftermath, Texaco and the drilling contractors were forced into long, drawn-out legal battles, resulting in millions of dollars in settlements. These financial repercussions, while significant, pale in comparison to the human and environmental costs. The disaster reshaped local regulations and led to a new era of scrutiny in the energy industry, one that emphasized the need for rigorous safety protocols and a deep respect for the unpredictable forces of nature. As I wrap up this deep dive, I want you to take away more than just the sequence of events. The Lake Peigneur disaster is a powerful reminder of our place in the world, a reminder that despite our technological prowess, we remain vulnerable to nature's whims. Every time you see a calm lake or a seemingly routine drilling operation, remember that beneath the surface lies a potential for chaos, a reminder that nature can turn on us when we least expect it. I'm challenging you now to question what you take for granted. Look beyond the surface, delve into the details, and always be prepared for the unexpected. This story, with its twists and turns, its blend of technical missteps and raw human emotion, isn't just a chapter in a textbook. It's a living, breathing lesson in humility, resilience, and the eternal dance between human ambition and the raw power of the earth. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of modern history's most astonishing disasters. I hope you're as compelled by its lessons as I am. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and never forget. Sometimes the most profound truths emerge from the chaos. I love you guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next story.